retired from a 40-year career in healthcare information technology. He has been interested in the stars since his childhood, 60 plus years ago. He is currently a member of the Minnesota Astronomical Society and served in the past as president of the organization for 4 years. Mike has been active in the Society's public outreach and education for over 3 decades and is currently an active volunteer at the organization's facility in western Carver County, the Eagle Lake Conservatory. He's here today to talk to us about the Astronomical Society and what else? Stars, of course. Whatever up there you think we ought to be looking for.
Questions that need to answer. Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for lunch, and thank you for your attention. Let's hope it sticks through this boring presentation. Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So I'm just going to run through a set of slides I put together. We're going to talk basically about the current state of the Astronomical Society, with a particular emphasis on what our member benefits are, what we see as our public benefits, and then as well we'll talk specifically about the various facilities that we own and operate around the state that we use for that outreach activity, that outreach and education activity in particular. Let me find the clicker button. So just a quick summary of what we are. We are 501c3, and we basically have an educational component, which we will see shows up both in this type of activity that I'm doing today, this outreach. I took a quick look at our tracking system, and we have at least 20 outreach opportunities right now that need staffing, taking us through August and into September. So that's pretty much a standard kind of cadence for us, that we'll have 15 to 20 groups, individuals, schools, scout groups, reaching out to us on a regular basis to come and help educate them on astronomy. Then the second part is, for our members, to provide them the tools and access to the technologies and the knowledge and information so they can enjoy their hobby of astronomy. Right now, our current membership is about 740 people. We're sitting at that plateau right now. We had a big uptick, surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly. COVID really pushed our membership up, and I think people were looking for something they could do outdoors, away from other people, and that's astronomy. So that was a big benefit for us. I'm sure we helped a lot of people get through a tough time, and that membership now has stayed at that level without really any major change, plus or minus. We're just kind of hovering. It goes between like 730, 750, 740, kind of that range. I put the membership on here. That our regular annual membership is $40 a year, and that's for the whole family. If you want to be a patron member, yes, you can give us more money. We'll apply that to maintenance and improvements and whatnot. We also have a student membership that's lower than that. But I call it out in particular because once I go through this slide, you're probably going to be saying to yourself, how in the heck do they get all this done on $40 a year from 740 people? I oftentimes ask that question myself. It's been one that from the earliest days of our plans to build an observatory and to have a public focus for that observatory, we struggled with that question. How will we afford this? And fortunately, we had one of our benefactors who just said, if you build it, they will come. She actually said that before that became a thing down in Iowa and in the movie. So I think we're proof that if you have the right people with the right mission, the right vision, and the love for whatever it is they're trying to do, there really is no limit. I think that's takeaway for me anyway from that history. And anytime, if you have a question or want a little more information, feel free just to throw your hand up. We don't have to be formal here, we're friends. So just a tiny bit of history. So the Twin Cities Astronomy Club was founded in 1973. So if you do the math quickly, we just celebrated a 50th year anniversary a few years back. The group that founded us was originally part of the 3M Astronomy Club. At the time, 3M had clubs for all kinds of folks, and they had an astronomy club. And that organization, I don't know if 3M was shutting down the clubs or if the clubs are shutting down their own, but that group of folks that was associated with the 3M club decided to start a Twin Cities Astronomy Club. And our first outreach for membership took place at a business called E&W Optical. Their building still stands over northeast Minneapolis. It's now a restaurant or something. But at the time, it was the place if you wanted telescope optics, if you wanted the mirrors and the lenses for telescopes, they were the place to go. And they basically gave us that exposure to their customers and to the outside world that we were forming an astronomy club. I was not involved, I say we, the royal we. In '76, as they were thinking about building an observatory and doing something in that case, they decided they better get a nonprofit designation for fundraising purposes, so they got their 501c3. And then in 1980, they acquired a telescope from the University of Minnesota Duluth, which was shutting down their astronomy program up in Duluth. And so we bought the telescope from them and then had it shipped down here to the Twin Cities. And that was going to be our focal point for building the observatory around that telescope. It weighed half a ton, to give you an idea of the size of this piece. But it was a thing of beauty. We no longer have it. It's actually, we'll catch up with it later. It had a great track record. So here's a quick just recap of our member benefits. So again, think of $40 per month. We do monthly meetings up in Roseville. We do those in person, we also stream them live, and then all those meetings are also archived on YouTube. So even if you're a member who, like me, I live in Bloomington, and driving all the way up to Roseville isn't exactly my idea of a good Thursday night, I can watch it live online. Or if I was out of town or busy with something, I can watch it 2 or 3 days later online. So that's been a very, and again, that came about mostly for COVID purposes, but now it's become just a standard operating procedure for us. The next bullet, the loaner telescopes. We have a library of somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 telescopes that our members can check out for 30 days. So if a telescope's available that you want to try out, you basically contact the individual in charge of our loaner program. They get your name, make sure you're a member, and for 30 days, you get to use that telescope, see how it works, see if it's the type of telescope you're looking for. And if at the end of that 30 days, no one has asked for that telescope, you can keep it another 30 days. This is one of the benefits that I usually, when I'm out at the observatory, there's a little bit of sales going on. You want to encourage people to consider membership. This is one of the features that I think people just really kind of blows their socks off. So they go, oh, what should I get as for my first telescope? No, spend $40 with us, and you get a choice of telescopes. Try them all, figure out what you like, what you don't like, then go buy your telescope. Don't waste your money and make a bad purchase. Third bullet here, the key holder training and access to our facilities. We have, as you'll see here shortly, we have quite a few facilities around the Twin Cities, all the way up to Aitkin County. And some of them have, as you'll see in a few slides, some fairly complex technology involved, or sometimes it's just, you need to have a key holder key to get in because it's all locked up and secured. But once you are a key holder at any of our facilities, all we ask is that you provide some form of volunteer work throughout the year, whether it's sweeping the floor at the observatory, or it's helping with a presentation to the scouts at the observatory, or maybe there's a work party to repair the shingles on the roof of the building. That's all we ask of people in our organization. Just volunteer and do something, and the access is yours. We do a bi-monthly newsletter. We've been unique in that regard in the sense of a lot of astronomy clubs and societies don't have a huge membership. So they'll basically get articles, and I remember back in the day, we would mail our newsletter out to 20 or 30 astronomy clubs. They would mail us copies of theirs, and then you cut and paste articles. You just, I'll take this article from that one, take that, and that would go into our next issue, vice versa. We don't do that anymore. And because we've now gone to a PDF delivered online newsletter, now we've got color photographs. We can run as many pages as we want. We don't have to worry about the mailing of the newsletter, which is always just a joyless activity. Yeah, you'll heard an acknowledgement there. So that was a huge change, and it really it's now a pretty impressive newsletter, if I would say so myself. Star parties have always been at the core of our outreach from day one. And a general star party is just members show up and invite the public to come meet us in the dark, which you know takes. I'm always impressed how many people will follow up on that and actually do it, because it's like, okay. But we usually start at dusk, or when the sun is setting, so it's not totally dark. But they will go. If it's a dark night and the weather is nice, I mean, we'll go to midnight, we'll go to 1 a.m., we'll go to 2 a.m. I mean, if people want to stay around, that's the whole reason why we're there. But if the star party, if it's going to be cloudy, rainy, bad weather, we will cancel those. And then we put that notice event up on our website as our basic communication for that. Now we also do some, yeah, go ahead.
Where do you normally do the star parties to get away from the city lights?
Hold that thought. I wish I had a map. I was going to prepare a map to show you all the places we have, but I didn't have time. But we will do everything from over by Afton to down near Cannon Falls to Young America, Norwood Young America, all the way up to McGregor up on north of Mille Lacs. So we cover as much territory as we can to try to get away from as much light as we can. And we'll talk a bit about that as well. Some of our special events, there are groups of galaxies and deep space objects that are not easy to find, but difficult enough that it gives a challenge. It's called the Messier list. It's 110 objects in the night sky. And if you want, you can observe those 110, you can submit some paperwork, and you'll get a nice certificate, a little pin to wear that you got your Messier list. So that's an example of a special event we have down there. It's possible to see all 110 of those objects in the springtime. In the fall, it's an abbreviated list. So we have a spring Messier marathon where you can see all 110, and then come fall, it's more like 70. But we call it the mini Messier marathon, which is quite the tongue twister. We also belong to the Astronomical League. That's a national organization of astronomy clubs, societies all around the country. They're the ones that run these observing programs and the certificates and pins and such. They also do a quarterly newsletter, and then we are part of the North Central region of the Astronomical League, and they do conferences once or twice a year. We've hosted one here in the Twin Cities 5-6 years ago. But then we bring in speakers from the University of Minnesota. We brought in professional astronomers to talk to us, and we get some telescope vendors to show up and provide things for us to see and get our hands on. Our special interest groups is something that we started back during the deep dark past of my presidency. It has been a huge success. We have everything from people who just want to do this and just do outreach and education. We've got other people who are doing spectroscopy, actually taking the light from galaxies, stars, and planets and breaking it down into its component values and determining what gases and what elements are visible or part of that system they're looking at. So it's just great to see this wide range of interest. And that's probably what our key to success has been. There's a place for anything you want to do. There's a group in it, and when you got 740 people, it may be a group of 30 or 40 or 50. Then group discounts, we just have a number of group discounts on magazines. The San Pedro Valley Observatory remote telescope rentals. For $400 a month, you can have your telescope set up at a permanent observatory down south and connect to it via the internet, open up the roof remotely, and use your telescope online and not have to travel down to the dark skies. They also have telescopes in the facility that you can just rent for the night. It's like $90 a night, I think. So anyway, those are that list alone seems to me to be a pretty good deal for $40. You know, if you use even 2 or 3 of those things, it seems like a good deal to me. But I'm cheap, so. Public benefits, so the public's invited to come to our meetings, they're not closed. We do our spring and fall astronomy day. I should have the date off the tip of my tongue when the fall astronomy day will be, but that's a day-long event out at our Eagle Lake Observatory. The people are invited to. We used to actually go, we did them in Lake Harriet at the band shell for a number of years, and we've gone on site into the city to do it at times, back when the planetarium was still here and viable and active. But now we do this all out at our Eagle Lake Observatory. Camping with the Stars, we also do at Baylor Regional Park. We just concluded that 2 weeks ago. We had 165 campers. And it's kind of cool because we use the campground at the park, and then for the overflow, there's a ball field right next to our observatory complex, and people can just put their tents up there and camp. And we basically, Friday night, they arrive, we check them in, we stargaze all Friday night. Saturday, starting at noon, we have presenters all during the day. Kids build model rockets and launch them. The whole day is busy. Saturday night, we feed them, we do a little cookout, and then Saturday evening, after the sun goes down, we stargaze again all night. We get up Sunday morning, we feed them breakfast, and we kick them out. So it's a big event for us. It's in 8 or 9 years we've been doing it. It started way back in the dark days. Astronomy magazine and REI came to us and said, we'd like to do Camping with the Stars, would you help us out? So they no longer help us out, but we get enough from our income from those registrations and whatnot that it covers all of our costs. And that's all we care about, is covering those costs. We've got partnerships. We are very active with the Bell Museum, the Science Museum of Minnesota. When they're having astronomy-related events, our people are there with a table, with telescopes, whatever they need. Our website, again, this is where if you're interested on special interest groups, there's a number of beginner resources on there, our newsletter archive, all that's open and available to the public as well. And then outreach, this kind of activity. We do a lot of scout groups and campouts at different places. School events and astronomy field trips. I just did one 4 weeks ago for Benilde St. Margaret. They had a summer gifted class that came out, and we just gave them a tour of the observatory and talked a little bit about astronomy. Nature centers, we're very active at the Cedar Creek Ecosystem Science Reserve and others. So we'll be at the Arboretum this fall for one of their events. So any place there's somebody that wants to have somebody come talk about astronomy or lead a discussion on it, we're there. Civic organizations like you all, thank you for that. And with parks in general. Wake up, computer. There we go. So let's talk about back to the question of where do we do this. So this is our Cherry Grove Observatory. This is down near Cannon Falls. This is the only place where we actually own the property. We bought it for like $50 on a tax default. Cleared it of all the junk and trash that had been down there, tore down the buildings that needed to be torn down, and took the building from 3M Astronomy Club that they no longer needed and used that as our starting building down there, which has been remodeled so much to the point now where it's a new building. So it's intended as a dark site for our members to use. It's it's a 50-minute drive from Bloomington, so it's not a short drive, but it's darker than it is in the Twin Cities. We still get quite a light dome to the north of us from the Twin Cities, but for what we want to do and for the convenience of it, it's worth the effort. We also have multiple telescopes down there that people can use, again, if they've been trained as a key holder. So I'm talking about 12-inch meter. That doesn't mean the telescope's only 12 inches tall. That means the mirror that's collecting the light is 12 inches. Just to clarify that. So we've got a 12-inch, we've got a 16-inch, and then we've got a 24-inch Starmaster Dobsonian, which is a very manual, push it around the sky kind of telescope. But when you're going to have a mirror that's 2 feet in diameter, to put that on a professional mount costs a lot of money. This, you just got to roll it out, put the brakes on, and just move it around. So here you'll see Dobsonians mentioned a lot here. There's also 2 on-site loaner scopes down there, so if you wanna go down and use the little 8-inch or little 10-inch, they're available. And then there are concrete pads, as you can see in the diagram here, and there's electrical outlets that they can access. We've got off-highway parking there. It's County Road A, I think it is. And so we do get some cars, but you'll see there's a fence kind of built there to keep the lights from the cars getting onto our observing field. So that has been around, as long, or actually longer than the Eagle Lake facilities that we'll talk about here shortly. Matter of fact, a little bit of politics. There were a group of people at the time who really wanted to take the money that we had been granted and build a public observatory. Other people said, let's take that money and go buy a bigger telescope and just forget the observatory. And we said, no, we can't do that. We've been given $20,000 to do this. So rather than fight through that, we just bought this property down in Cannon Falls and said, fine, go do what you want to do, and we'll go do what we want to do, and everybody will be happy. And it turned out to be the best decision we made, in the whole project as we went down that road. So that's number 1. Number 2, the Joseph J. Casby Observatory. This is out on the property of the Bellwin Conservancy, so that's out in the Afton area. Huge nature center, trails, and it's just an amazing place. This particular observatory has a 10-inch refractor. Now again, we're talking a lens, 10 inches in diameter, which doesn't sound like it's that big, but those lenses, it's multiple lenses stacked and cemented together, and each one of them has a tolerance of 1/1,000,000 of an inch of accuracy in these telescopes to make them work well. So a 10-inch refractor is a big telescope for amateur astronomers. There are other telescopes also mounted down there. The dome that you see in this photograph is 16.5 feet in diameter. And then there's electrical outlets all around outside, and you'll see in a moment here when we get to the Eagle Lake Observatory, there's a slightly smaller version of this same configuration named after the wife of Joseph J. Out at our Eagle Lake Observatory. This is available again. Our members can use this themselves if they want, if they just reserve it and it's not being used for a presentation at Bellwin or something of that nature. Light pollution is terrible out there, but if people are going to come from Woodbury, they got to drive 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So we can still do a lot of good astronomy even with a lot of light, and this place just proves that out. Very nearby there is the Metcalf Observing Field. This was the very first place that our organization back in the 70s had star parties. Father Metcalf owned the property, and he was part of the Astronomical Society, and he said, why don't we have star parties out there? So we had star parties out there. So our members can use it for private viewing, but its probably biggest use is our beginner special interest group meets out there monthly. This photograph is a COVID photograph. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to find a more current one. So take the number of people you see there and about triple it. And I keep looking at them going, you're not all beginners. You just like getting together out there. But our people who operate it and who host it are experts and know the telescope. So people come out with a new telescope they just bought and ask for help. But it's been, and they have cookies, treats, food, and it's what a star party should be. And it's extremely, extremely popular with our members. Now, if you go up north, up to the Long Lake Conservation Center, we have a working relationship with them. They provide us access to their facilities and grounds, as well as 3 rooms of lodging that if you spend 2 hours driving up there and you don't want to drive back at 3 in the morning, they have bunk beds and rooms that we can use when we're up there for our scheduled events. This one has a 30-inch Dobsonian telescope, so again, a mirror that's almost 3 feet in diameter, and that's what you see here in the photograph. We also do a regional star party up there now for the past few years called the Northern Nights Star Fest, and that is held up here as well. And it's usually this time of year when it's held. I think it was 2 weeks ago, but if you want to see dark skies, this is a photograph of the Milky Way that somebody took up there under those skies. You're still getting some light pollution from the horizon. I don't know which town that might be down there. It might just be clouds with, just scattered light. But it is dark, it is bug infested, but it does have facilities, and we've got a nice honking big telescope up there for people to use. And that brings us to my personal favorite, the Eagle Lake Observatory. And we talked a bit about public events and outreach there. Just to recap, most of the things I talked about take place now at Eagle Lake. And we also do public star parties every first quarter and third quarter moons during April through November. So there will be an event there this coming Saturday night if you're interested in going out to Baylor Regional Park. We'll be out there rain or shine. The only times we have canceled is if severe weather is forecast, or we actually did cancel when we had that really bad bout of air quality. We just said, no, we're not gonna put our members through it, and when people started canceling and saying, I'm not gonna go, we just canceled that. But other than that, if it's just rainy, just cloudy, we're still there. We've got other things to talk about, things to share. At Eagle Lake, this is the original building that started the whole program, the Onan Observatory. We did our first public programming out there in April of 2000. The big door you see opened up there in the front didn't exist at the time. It was all closed in with plywood. So we pried plywood off the front and let the telescope, whatever it could see. And we actually were fortunate, we could actually show people a cluster of stars that's nice and pretty. But that was our very first use of that building, but we'd been having star parties out there for a decade and a half. So people knew we were out there, but not to this extent at the time. We've now got 3 computer-controlled observing platforms, 2 for visual, so you gotta walk up and actually put your eyeball on the eyepiece to look. And the third one is for live video and imaging, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. We've also got smaller optics, like 15 by 20 binoculars, a personal solar telescope, and the main roof, this large roof that you see here in the front of this photograph, is actually now, this is pretty current, motorized. So rather than doing it manually, as you can see here shortly, we now can just hit a big green button and it opens up. And when we're done, hit the big green button and it closes. And it's a thing of beauty. 2 or 3 people trying to push this roof back and forth. On the left, you can kind of see the 3 platforms I talked about. The far left, those set of telescopes are visual. The one that's in the middle, standing alone on its pier, that's also visual. The 20-inch Dobsonia that's in between, again, that's most portable. You roll that out to the front in that plaza and use that one. Then the final one on the far right that's permanently installed, that's where all of our imaging telescopes are. So if you look at this photograph, and this is what it looks like when we're there at night. We're all red lights to protect our night vision. This roof is opened up to the sky, and people are just coming and going from telescope to telescope, in and out of our classroom, just enjoying the night sky and getting questions answered. Yeah?
We're just about to our time.
Okay, I'll buzz. Sylvia A. Casby, again, that's another observatory we've got there. You get a picture here of it in operation. I fortunately didn't have a good picture of the telescopes, so we'll just blow by that. Our classroom, we have a set up screen this size in our classroom. We can sit about 70 people. We got heat and air conditioning and no bugs. And we can also get live video feeds from the Onan Observatory. I'd invite you to, since in the name of time, if you go to YouTube and look up the Minnesota Astronomical Society, you'll find this video, which just for some reason decided to disappear. Join us for our star party. Take a look at that video. It's really well made. It's a little bit dated in terms of the technology, but it gives you a sense of what the Eagle Lake Observatory is and what we do out there. And if I was selling you a membership right now, I'd say get to our website, browse around, look at our monthly meetings on YouTube, come out to the Eagle Lake Observatory and see firsthand what it's all about, talk to us, meet us. If people want to join, we can do PayPal, we can do it via mail, however you want to pay us, we'll find a way to kick you money. And then once you've joined, and if you're new to astronomy, find our beginners special interest group and hook up with them. There'll be a great introduction to other people who have share your interest and love of astronomy, and if you need the skills and need the education, need the training, they've got the expertise to do that. And don't forget about the loaner program. So thank you to you all for asking me to stop by, and I always like to say thanks to our members, our outreach volunteers, our benefactors who make this all possible. And so we'll see you out there.